The HBCU First Look Film Let's Talk series is touring historically Black colleges and bringing experienced Hollywood film and TV executives, producers, directors, writers, content creators, and influencers for informative conversations on how to build a career in entertainment. We're looking for the next Spike Lee, Ruth Carter, Will Packer, hailing from the HBCU community. Are you the next? Get ready for an inspiring, empowering, and enlightening conversation Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers. On today's episode of HBCU First Look Let's Talk, we are tuning into the inaugural HBCU First Look Film Festival at Howard University. At the home of the Bison, the HBCU First Look Film Festival provides enlightening and enriching workshops that offer groundbreaking insight on the entertainment industry. In this session, we sit down with Vice President of Audience Strategy at AARP, Shani Hosten, Howard University's own film producer, Caralene Robinson, and Hallmark Media's Erika McCrary for the A View from Another Seat Film Marketing Workshop, moderated by author and media mogul Harriette Cole. This is HBCU First Look Film, Let's Talk Marketing Your Film, from the HBCU First Look Film Festival.
So welcome, everyone. My name is Harriette Cole. I'm very honored to be the moderator of this discussion today. It is called View from Another Seat. View from Another Seat. And what we're going to be talking about is the careers that the women up here have had, the education at HBCUs that helped to catapult us to where we are today, and going from corporate to creative, or kind of working together, because that is not always an easy transition. And we want you to learn as much as you can so that it will help you as you move forward in your careers. So the people on the panel, to my far left is Shani Hosten, who is VEP in the AARP division of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And next to her is Erika McCrary of the Hallmark channel. Yeah. She's got a fan club already. And next to me, Caralene Robinson, who has her own company. She was formerly with Coke and Boost Mobile and others. So we'll talk about, yes, everybody, yes. And so as we were talking earlier, one of the things that we talked about just being inspired by this event is what it means to go to an HBCU and what that can mean for you as you launch your career. And so we want to talk about that a little bit. And I'll start. Three of us are Howard grads. One is a Hampton grad, the HUs. We're together today, the HUs. I graduated from Howard University many moons ago. I was an English major. And I was a model. I was interested in fashion. And at Howard, there are huge fashion productions. And I was part of those fashion productions. And actually was invited to go to Paris to be a model there. Didn't want to do that. And I ended up I wanted to be on the other side of the camera, which was a very smart decision. It's a much longer career than being a model, certainly for women. And I really started my career in New York City at Essence Magazine. Part of how I got that job, which is why the HBCU connection is, I called everyone I knew who worked in New York City at a magazine. And the two people that I knew were Howard graduates. I'm a Delta. One of them was a Delta, and one of them had been the producer of the fashion shows at Howard and in DC for all of the years that I'd done that. I got 2 interviews. I was offered 2 jobs. And I took the job at Essence because it felt like the better job for me. Something I was told before I went to Howard and before I went to Essence was, don't go to an HBCU, you won't be able to get a job. And I graduated from Howard, Phi Beta Kappa, summa cum laude, and they still said you won't get a job. I did. And don't go to Essence. The other job was at a much larger publishing firm, mainstream, i.e. white-owned publishing firm, but Essence was better. Don't go to Essence, you'll never get a job. I went to Essence, had an amazing career, and from there launched my own business. Don't listen when they say don't go black.
Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers. Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers.
Caralene, tell us about your HBCU pivot. Well, not pivot, but launch pad.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here. This is actually my first time returning to campus on a panel, so it's really amazing. And an honor to be with these panelists. And if you don't know Harriette Cole, she's a legend. So thank you so much for moderating today. So I'm a Howard grad, and I'm actually a School of Business grad. So I actually made the shift from being a School of Business marketing major to being a writer, director, producer. I have a production company called 220th Street. We tell stories about underrepresented groups and women. We are award winning, and we create branded content. I write and direct my own work, and then I also invest in up and coming filmmakers to help them tell their stories. It's great to be here.
And the HBCU connection to the launch of your career.
Oh, so I mean, Howard is a family. It's instant family, right? It's family on campus and instant family off campus. And so my career wouldn't be where it is without the HBCU connection. It was invaluable.
Shani.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shani Hosten, and thank you, Harriette. I get the pleasure of working with Harriette Cole and a number of opportunities at AARP. As Harriette mentioned, I actually lead our African American and Black strategy at AARP, as well as our LGBTQ work in our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at AARP, and I've been there for almost 8 years now. And just really happy to be here. I am a proud Hamptonian, and it's good to balance out. And it's really just HBCU love, right? And it's exciting to be in rooms and back on an HBCU campus. So I am thrilled to be here. My HBCU trajectory that launched my first job at Hampton, I had gotten a job offer between my junior and senior year that summer. I was going to be an insurance claim representative, and went back to school, and I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And a big sister was working at a pharmaceutical company out in Indianapolis, and she said, recruiters are coming to school. Can you set up a reception, show them around? And of course, you never say no to your big sisters. And so I set it up. And in talking with the recruiters, they, said, hey, you should interview for our job. I said, no, I'm going to be a claims rep. I already got a job. I'm good. And more I learned about the pharmaceutical industry, I figured, hey, I could use my marketing skills. I was a marketing School of Business major, and ended up getting a great job offer, company car, right out of school, and that really started my trajectory, which I would have never been exposed to the pharmaceutical industry had I not listened to my big sister. So the networks, the HBCU family continues today in a number of ways as well.
Thank you. Erika.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erika McCrary, as mentioned earlier, and I am very grateful to be on a panel with all of these ladies. They are dynamic. So I guess I fit right in with them.
Yeah.
Well, I majored in musical theater, and I just thought I was going to go to Broadway and be a star there, and that is not what happened. I thought about it a little harder, and I was like, benefits might be a good idea. Being able to go to the doctor, pay those bills, things like that. So I didn't jump right into anything in film and TV right away, but it was something I always knew was going to call me back. And I ended up moving to Atlanta, and the film industry was booming there, and they have a really strong Howard community there as well. And I just started volunteering everywhere, anywhere I could get any sort of experience. I didn't care if I was carrying waters upstairs. I was going to do it just so I could meet people and get in the room and see what what I might be interested in. And from there, I just kept trying different things. And now I'm living in LA, and I work for the Hallmark channel for the Mahogany Initiative. And actually, Topher was in one of our movies. So Howard is just constantly everywhere. And so now I have the pleasure of being able to create film and TV for a Black audience and tell our stories from our lens. And it's a really big blessing.
Excellent. Yeah. I want to share as we pivot to the next point, these relationships can and should last a lifetime, depending upon how you treat people. And we were talking about how do we treat people being one of the key elements of success. I want to share with you just in terms of longevity, this event that was created by Sheila Eldridge, the First Look, HBCU First Look Film series, is something that she called me, and the answer is always yes. If it's ever possible, the answer is yes. I didn't go to school with Sheila, but she also went to Howard. I was at Essence when Sheila was a publicist for many people. When I left to start my business, which is a long time ago, I started my business in 1995, and it's a media company that I've had since then. She was one of my first clients, and Vogue was her group. And because I was the fashion editor at Essence when I left, she hired me to style them. That was one of my first jobs. That was 1995. Most of you all weren't alive yet. We have stayed friends and working together over all these years. This is what can happen if you are always excellent and if you stay in touch with the people. These relationships can last a lifetime. I want to talk about attitude and work ethic, because those two things are pivotal. And I want to start out by saying I know, having hired hundreds of people over the years and having been a college graduate myself, that sometimes we think we know everything, especially when we're young. We definitely think we know more than whoever the boss is. And we can have a little bit of an attitude about that. Does anybody know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Has anybody been guilty of that? Mm-hmm. And so, of course, that can get you out of a job, that can get you out of an opportunity, and can tarnish your reputation for life.
Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers. Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers.
And so I wanted everyone to talk about attitude and work ethic, and also if you could give an example of when you had to kind of fix your face and self-correct so that you were able to move on in a positive way.
So an example for me, I was at the Coca-Cola company, and I was actually at the Essence Music Festival. It was my first time at Essence, and I was working with, Sheila knows this, I was working with a legend at Essence, Ingrid Saunders-Jones. If anyone knows Ingrid Saunders-Jones. And we had kind of a customer luncheon, and I was bored because I wanted to be in the streets. And she had she had someone pull me to the side and say, you need to get yourself together. And you need to get yourself together. You need to smile all the time. You need to speak to everyone, say hello to everyone. Remember each person's name. And by the way, we need you to wear longer skirts. Right. Oh, yeah. I got checked. Right. And so I say all that to say that wherever you are, right, it is so important to say hi to everyone, be positive. You just never know. Right. And I think you mentioned something in our meeting earlier. The PA today could be the director tomorrow. Right, or the producer tomorrow that could hire you. So it is super, super important to have the right attitude. And I guess I'll let everyone else speak to work ethic.
Erika, you want to go next?
Yes. So as far as the work ethic, I mentioned doing a lot of volunteer stuff, a lot of volunteer opportunities, because I just wanted to meet the people doing the work. And I figured if I'm there, if I show up, if I work really hard, somebody's going to offer me a job. And I'm just going to keep showing up until they say, hey, you are hired. And that happened many times. I would be doing one job and get in there and talk to as many people as I could, because when I graduated from here, I didn't know how many jobs were available and what types of jobs they even had in the business until I got behind the scenes. And I'm like, somebody does lights, somebody shops, somebody does, all these different things. And I was like, ooh, I could try all of these different types of jobs, but you got to talk to people so that they know that you're interested, that they know that you want to be a part of their team and that you're willing to show up and do the work. And I'll give a good example. I had a friend who I talked to on one show, and she needed somebody to come in on the show Greenleaf. And she said, hey, I can only hire you for a week because my PA is out and I just need someone to show up. Do you have a computer? Can you be here? I said, sure. I didn't have a car. I didn't have any of that, but I Ubered myself over there, and I came there every single day. And I said, on Friday, she's going to hire me to stay on this job. And I ended up working 2 seasons of Greenleaf because she remembered that I worked really hard. She knew I was going to show up no matter what, car or no car, rain or shine. I was going to be there to do my job because I wanted it. And I wanted to be there and meet all of the people that I could. And we worked with Oprah. I was like, oh my gosh, Oprah, she's here. And those were moments that I will never forget, and that really have helped to shape the way that I move in any job that I'm in. I always want to show up first. I want to be the best as I can be, and I want to be kind to people.
And tell them what happened with the Uber.
Oh, so I was Ubering and it was like basically my entire check to Uber to and from work. And my boss said, we see that you working hard. We're going to rent you a car and you going to get here because we also want you to be able to move around the way we need you to, and having a car is going to help that. So you can get you a rental. And that was great because I'd had more money.
Excellent. Shani.
So I'll share an example because I think work ethic, I learned very, very young and growing up. I was blessed to have all 4 of my grandparents in my life till I was 30. Wow. And so my parents had me. They were very young. My mother was working at the post office. My father was finishing North Carolina A&T. And so my grandparents poured into me and instilled in me a work ethic and faith that carry me through each and every day. So there was an opportunity when I was in the pharmaceutical. I worked in pharmaceuticals for about 16, 17 years, and it's primarily white male environments. I had the opportunity where my boss was going to take an interim role, and I was asked to take his role and lead the team, so my peers, but there was no additional money, and I had to do my job too. And so did that and did it flawlessly, executed, stayed late, did what I had to do. And at that time, I had gotten married and was blessed with my first child. So I was juggling being a mom and being the type of mom that I wanted to be as well. And, my friends, coworkers were like, wow, you're not getting any extra money, and you're really going through all of this. And I was like, yep, because I'm learning, right? I'm sitting at the table. And having a seat at the table to be able to voice my opinion, my insights are valued. I'm here for a reason, and God put me in this position and gave me this opportunity. And so I took advantage of that. So fast forward, my boss comes back, and I go back to my day job, and thought, okay, there'll be my time at some point. And eventually, it became my time, and I interviewed and got the job and became team leader. And so at that point, my peers trusted me because I had been, essentially one of them, and was not afraid to work hard, roll up my sleeves, and do the job. It wasn't about the title. It was about being a trusted colleague and being someone that we could all depend on. And so I do think that sometimes titles do get in the way, right? But it's about doing the work and being there and showing up for your colleagues, just like we show up for family and being there.
Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers. Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers.
Volunteering is something that I just heard, and I'd like to have us address in terms of making a pivot in your career. Mm-hmm. When you have said, I'll do it, and a lot of times you can feel like, oof, it's not fair. Yep. You know, why am I doing all of this stuff and working these extra hours and someone else is moving faster? And often someone who doesn't look like me seems to be getting a greater advantage than me. I was taught volunteer like you're being paid $1 million and maybe one day you will be. Mm-hmm. Show up early, no matter whether you're being paid or not. But what is the value of volunteering when you have a goal in mind? You want to start, Erika?
So when you volunteering and you are doing all of that work and you are thinking like, ugh, I wish I was getting a check for this, there is experience that you're getting that you really can't pay for or find anywhere else. Getting to shadow a director or an actor or a producer, learning what their job is and all of the things that it entails, and them actually building some trust with you, it can help to catapult you to the next level or to the next place, because they'll remember, like, this girl worked hard and I didn't pay her 1 cent. And here she was showing up on time. She was going above and beyond. I would really love to have her on my team, because even when I wasn't giving her anything but experience, she was ready to take it to the next level. And they will trust you. And then you meet other people in those, in those experiences, and people that you can connect with and do other work with. So I think it's always beneficial to do it, especially if you're starting out, because, you never know who you're meeting in these spaces. And the one day you show up to volunteer, who knows who's going to be there, and that person sees you working and hires you on the spot. So many different things can happen, and so many different things have happened for me. So I'm speaking from that experience.
And for those of you who heard Ruth Carter, she said Spike Lee told her to volunteer with the student projects, and look what happened to her. I'm curious, Caralene, about you pivoting to your new career. Was volunteering part of that?
Absolutely. So if you look at my filmography, maybe 40% of it is paid. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is either volunteer or working for free. My first film project, I did not get paid. And when I, in turn, am looking to hire for productions and I'm looking at people's resumes and filmographies, I don't know if you got paid or not. I don't know, right? All I know is, do you have experience, right? So whether you're a PA or, assisting someone. So it is absolutely crucial to be willing to try some things for free. And as Erika said, the relationships that you will build on set, there are experienced people on set who will be like, that person worked really hard. You know what? I'm gonna bring them over to this project over here. There's a lot of networks around. Hey, do you know any good PAs? Yeah. Do you know any good ADs? So I thoroughly encourage everyone to ask, to volunteer or shadow, or can I PA? Can I carry your water? Because it starts to build out your resume.
And before we go to you, Shani, I just want to share one thing. There's a young woman who's like a goddaughter to me, who went to Spelman, was interested in film, lives in New York, that's where I live, couldn't figure out a job. She just couldn't figure it out. So she had another job, and she saved as much money as she could and decided to move to one of the other markets where it's not New York or LA, where there would be an opportunity. She saved money, moved to New Orleans. This is about 10 years ago. And with her savings, she just would go to whatever the sets were and volunteer. Don't you need help doing anything? And she had X amount of money. She had to figure it out beforehand. She ended up working on, is it CSI New Orleans or NCI, whatever, NCIS New Orleans, for years. And then other projects that are in New Orleans. What she said was, you have to be where the work is and be willing to volunteer. which in her case meant, let me just earn as much as I can and spend none of it. Get the tiniest place where I can live and be present and keep showing up. And she first volunteered and now has a really great career because she was willing to volunteer and even move to another location.
Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers. Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers.
Shani.
Yeah, so I was just going to piggyback on just the work ethic and the volunteerism component. When you're volunteering, you're also in rooms, in spaces where messages are being shaped. You know, a lot of times when I was doing various roles, even if I didn't have that particular title, I was seeing how press releases were being created for organizations, how leaders thought of creating that narrative for the organization, and how messages, are being framed. And having that experience of being in the room, to your point, is invaluable. You can't pay for that, right? So you can have, best degrees, but the practical lived experiences that you can have by volunteering and being in certain rooms, you can, relate back to those experiences, those lived experiences to help you. And you may not see it today, but long term, right? Whether it's communications, whether it's digital aspects you're seeing in the film space, whether it's design, it's just so much value of being in the room and those lived experiences that, you can't put a price on sometimes. So,
and another part of that is having somebody you trust who you can talk to when you feel like, I don't want to volunteer anymore. I don't want to do, when you get an attitude for whatever reason, and we all do, and having somebody who you can be a sounding board, who you can trust and who will help guide you is so important. And I want to share, how many of you know who Elaine Welteroth is? Not many. So she is a judge on Project Runway now, and the Black female judge on Project Runway. She was the first Black and youngest editor-in-chief of a Condé Nast magazine. Teen Vogue was the magazine. And so in the world of media, she's a superstar. I gave her first job she was first an intern for me at Ebony magazine. I say I've had 39 lives. One of them was when I was creative director and then editor-in-chief of Ebony. And I gave her first job as an intern. She got paid, but $10 an hour. She moved across the United States from California to New York to work with me for $10 an hour. And that's basically free in New York. And she would complain sometimes, look, I need to be paid more money. If we worked 80 hours, it was still 40 hours that she got paid for. And, probably that was probably against the law, but anyway, that's how it kind of works. I said, just keep learning, just keep growing. It's going to pay off. She went from Ebony to Glamour to Teen Vogue because she complained to me. We worked it out. I said, just stay a little longer. It's going to work for you. Hugely worked for her. It can work for you. And you need somebody who you can complain to, who is not going to tell anyone, who is going to help check you. Yeah, where it won't backfire. You have to be very careful who you complain to and who will help you understand, how to navigate those moments. But we're talking about this a lot because we got here because of pushing hard, being excellent, and also being willing to put in the work. So I want to address mentoring. If you could choose one person, who has been a mentor for you and what impact has that had?
So I've had a number of mentors over the course of my career. My first film project weirdly came out of the Coca-Cola company. So I was a brand manager on Coca-Cola, and it was my first national campaign. And I stepped on that set, and I was like, "This is what I want to do." And my agency account person was a woman named Deborah Riley Draper. She's now an incredible documentarian. And she came to me and said, "Hey, I read this article on NPR. Do you want to make this documentary?" And I'm like, "I don't know how to make a documentary." And she's like, "Me neither." right? And so we tripped and fell through a documentary project called Versailles 73, American Runway Revolution. I was the producer, she was the writer-director, and that was my first film project. Didn't get paid, by the way, right? And she has been, the trajectory of her documentary career has been so incredible. She just completed a 4-part series on James Brown, EP'd by Mick Jagger and Questlove. And she is the person that I call, because she's on the doc path. I do more scripted, and she's the one I call and say, okay, am I crazy? Like, should I do this? And so having her, and she's landed. She's got an agent, she's got a manager, right? I'm still independent. So having someone I can talk to, not only about creative, but also about the business, is super valuable. So Ingrid Saunders Jones ran the Coca-Cola Foundation. And so she is responsible for uplifting, investing, and supporting more Black nonprofits, organizations, people than many people I know, even to this day. She's absolutely a legend.
Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers. Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers.
Well, Shani is corporate. You're corporate, starting in your career. There are not that many Black women even today at the top. And Ingrid Saunders Jones has been at the top for a long time. Yeah, and in philanthropy, exactly. Yeah, even fewer in philanthropy. Yeah. Mentor.
So as far as a mentor, there was a woman that was a first AD on my first show, Greenleaf, and she didn't even think she was going to be my mentor. I kind of made her become my mentor just because whenever she walked into the room, she always greeted everyone. And she made you feel very important, even if you had the smallest job on the show. And every time she spoke to me, she would always ask me, how am I? And what am I doing? And what are my interests? And she really took interest in getting to know me instead of just asking me to get her lunch, which I still did, but she just was very kind. And I really came to value that because a lot of other people that I'd see on we worked in this larger studio and there were several other shows being filmed there. And I would see people just being berated and, just treated really terribly, especially if they were a PA. And so she just made a point to never do that. And she knew how much money I was making. Sometimes she would pay for my Uber to get home or, buy me a meal. And I remember I was living in Atlanta and I was roommating with about 5 other people. And so, showering, all that type of stuff could be a little hard when you have so many people you're sharing with. And she had a apartment that the company had put her up in. And she was leaving a few weeks early. And she was like, I know you need some peace, so I'm gonna let you stay at this apartment. And it was like this luxury. I had never seen anything like it. I was like, oh my goodness. It had a jacuzzi and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, y'all, I done made it. I'm calling everybody over. We having a party. But it was, it was just kindness like that. And over the years, she lives in LA, and when I first moved there, she invited me to a sisters brunch. And all of these women that were there, they were all Black women, and they were all directors and writers and producers and the head of the DGA board and just all of these Directors Guild. Yes, they were a part of these different parts of the business that I was just like, all of you guys are Black. I think one of the women there, she was one of 2 Black directors of photography. And it was just amazing to see all of these women that were in this space, and they were all so kind, and we just had a sisterhood. And she made sure that I was there because she wanted me to have some sense of family in LA. And I can call her no matter what, to talk about just about anything, and she will talk me off a ledge when I want to quit. She's like, don't do it. You got so much more to go. So she's
Thank you, Shani.
Yeah, very similarly. I'll give a couple of examples. I currently, in my current role in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, report to our Chief Diversity Officer and Executive Vice President at AARP, Edna Kane Williams, who's an African-American female. So she is a mentor, not only my boss, but a mentor, a sister friend, and that confidant that I can talk to. It's great when you're in an organization where you can see yourself and you can see aspirational roles. And we also work for Joanne Jenkins, who is our CEO, African-American female of AARP. So I am truly, truly blessed in that regard to be in experiences and in rooms where I could eventually see myself in certain roles. I also have been blessed, as I mentioned, just family that have poured into me, that coach me. And then I have peer mentors, and also today 2 mentees. They call themselves mentees, but they mentor me, right? So I think we need peer mentors. I think that trusted spaces that you talked about, sister friends that you talked about, that you can share. But you also need individuals who may be of different generations that can help mentor. So while they say I mentor them, they actually mentor me. They're both Howard alums, and so we always have the Hampton-Howard, banter back and forth. But it's just great figuring out who you can identify with in an authentic way and be in those trusted spaces to be able to share and learn from one another. Because we all, should never stop learning. There's always something we can learn.
That's beautiful.
Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers. Let's Talk series with Hollywood movers and shakers.
In a few minutes, we're going to go to questions. And so I want you to think of a question you have. It's not a soliloquy, it's a question. And we don't have a lot of time. We want to get questions from as many people as we can. Before we go there, I want us to talk about, I'm going back to attitude for a second, because this is important. And it's what do you say when you're out and about? How do you communicate who you are, what you want to do, especially if you may not be doing it in the moment? Because part of we just very naturally have been talking about having this job and going to this thing. And sometimes this thing is a big dream. Sometimes, you're crafting it as you're doing it. But many people in the room right now, I'm sure, have this dream, but you may not be doing it. And how do you articulate that to others? So I'm going to start with the story, and then we can share with other people. So I believe in dreaming. What a brand under my company is called Dream Leapers. I had a dream that I had a business. That's why I have a business. Nobody in my family is an entrepreneur. They're very successful, but they're not entrepreneurs. I was at Essence for 11 years before I left. I had a dream that I was going to start this business, and things started getting not so comfortable. You know how when friction happens, I don't like this anymore, I don't want to be here. That is the greatest gift, because then you're supposed to do something. My mother taught me, don't ever go any place and start talking negative to people. Nobody wants to hear that. So I went to a cocktail party one day. I was being negative in my head, but I wouldn't do what my mom said don't do. Sitting next to me was a gentleman whom I knew, and he said, Harriette, what are you doing? Well, he knew what I was doing. He knew my job. It was a big job at Essence. But I told him what I was working on, which was this book called How to Be. It's an etiquette book. And he says, well, what is that? And I told him what it was. And he said, well, can you teach that to my artists? And I said, teach them what? He said, teach them how to be. That's the name of the book. And like Old Motown. Mm-hmm. That was Andre Harrell, the head of Uptown Records. One of my first clients when I started my business, other than Sheila Eldridge, was Andre. Mary J. Blige was one of my first clients, teaching her how to present herself well. Because I said that, that's how I was able to open my business with a client. And then there was Alicia Keys, and then there was Erika Badu, and then there was Andrew Day, and hundreds of people in between, because I didn't complain, and I claimed what I was going to do. It is so powerful. So they told me there's 5 more minutes, which means maybe not a whole story, but something.
So in my opinion, there are two things that cripple or limit dreams. One is the inability to articulate who you are, what you stand for, and what you want in a moment. So if you're in an elevator with Jordan Peele and you got 30 seconds, what you gonna say? You got to practice that, right? The second thing is being afraid to ask, and that's something that even I'm working on. It's ask for what you want, right? And it doesn't mean that you have to be overly aggressive. You could say when is an appropriate way to have a conversation about this, or what is the most appropriate business email to reach you. Right? Because maybe they don't want to talk in the elevator, right? And so those are the two things. So you have to spend some time really looking in the mirror and practicing, right? What your 15, 30, or 1 minute speeches. I made a commitment this year. I send one email a day to ask for something from someone.
Yeah, in terms of, asking for what you want and the positivity, in today's work environment, people want to work with positivity. There's so much negativity going around. So there are times on a daily basis where I can get frustrated when things don't go according to plan. And we talked about this earlier, right? So staying agile, staying flexible, just rolling with it sometimes and having that positive attitude will create a certain vibe, with the team, with whoever you're working with. And people will remember that because they'll want to work with you. You have the skill set, you're qualified, but it really comes down to sometimes fit and who do people want to work with. So I think that's critical, really having that positive vibe. And again, you may be frustrated, find that trusted space to get it out, whether that's exercising, somebody to talk to or whatever, but figuring out where you can, at least add value.
Quickly, I'll just say, don't take things personal, because sometimes you can meet someone and be so excited to talk to them, and you've created in your mind what this experience and this interaction is going to be, and they might not be in the mood to chat, or maybe something just happened right before you walked in the room and they're just not in their best space. It don't have anything to do with you. And sometimes you'll take that and be like, man, I really thought they were this nice person, and that's not what it is. They probably are a really lovely person. You just caught them at the wrong time, and then you're taking it personally and then carrying that on throughout the rest of the day. So just knowing that sometimes you don't meet people in the best moment, but you can always be your best self, no matter what.
Everybody in the room. Make sure that you meet the person sitting next to you wherever you are, the person standing next to you, because that person may end up being the key for you and for each other, for doors to open that you didn't even know were there. Shani, Erika, Caralene, thank you all so much for joining us, and good luck to you in your careers.
Art tells a story, your story, and inspires others in your community to do the same. This Black History Month, AARP is thrilled to celebrate creators over 50. Through their work and persistence, they make society a better place by bringing us all closer together. AARP is celebrating the undeniable impact and contributions Black art and artists have had on society.
This girls' trip is long overdue.
Can nothing stop me? I'm living high. No more waiting my time.
Italy! Buongiorno!
We could ride Vespas.
I am not getting on a Vespa.
Right now, Italy is winning.
I can see why everyone falls in love here.
Look up, hold your head high.
This is my Eat, Pray, Reset time.
Can nothing stop me? I'm living high.
Mahogany presents Unthinkably Good Things on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries.
What do you know about the song Lonely as a Cloud?
That is the song that put this record label on the map.
A love for music.
Behind the glitz and the glam, we're real people who are being taken advantage of.
I do not want to go to war with Berry Hall Records.
Legacies built on lies.
It is about my family, and I need to know the truth.
Will the truth
I know everything that
take down an empire?
you should stop poking around in matters that don't really concern you.
A Nashville Legacy, only on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries.
Event premieres Monday, February 19th at 8 on A&E.
Daddy, tell me a story about Mommy. You know, this is the same tea your mama gave me when we first met.
Well, how did you meet?
Do you want to date me?
Yes.
Cool. I'm Ed.
London.
I didn't see this coming. I'm marrying the prettiest girl in the world.
You got a beautiful fiance, you're smashing the job. You just keep upgrading.
So, you're best friends since college. Also your buddy. Between relationships, wouldn't feel some type of way that you got engaged?
I get nervous sometimes.
Why?
You just do what you want.
I've been telling you about Ed. You just weren't paying attention.
Well, you do change your mind a lot.
You don't know my experience. I grew up in the desert. I've seen things that you will never see.
And you don't know mine. I grew up in Newark.
I guess you are really set on this.
Whatever it will be, we'll always find a way.
So now you want to come back. Quit chasing the money. I already done told you, open your legs and let the money come to you. Yes, indeed. About as stupid as they come.
Hey, bitch! Hi!